Gold. It's a mineral, an element, and the most precious of the precious metals. It forms within the Earth's crust and at the Earth's surface. And sometimes it returns to the Earth in the form of priceless treasures that people once buried. For centuries, the word gold has meant beauty and value. Its color and brightness make it a universal symbol of wealth. Pure gold never loses its shine. It's also virtually indestructible and highly malleable. Usually, it's combined with other metals to increase its strength in things like jewelry and coins. There are a lot of ways people try to find hidden gold. Some use metal detectors. Others search for sunken treasure at the bottom of the sea. But most gold seekers hope to mine it from the earth in its native form. Many miners will go to extremes and endure harsh conditions in pursuit of a dream. On the Rio Madeira in Brazil, the river runs heavy with gold. Here, the men have devised their own, rather unique methods for extracting whatever gold they can find. Deposits of gold that reach the surface of the earth are typically mined as very fine particles in the beds of lakes and rivers. To reach the riverbed of the Rio Madeira, these gold seekers use a crude drill shaft. It dredges up tons of silt and stone in an exhausting, around-the-clock job. Ridged carpets act as filters to catch any gold. While sand and gravel float away, heavier gold particles sink to the bottom of the carpets. In order to get the gold out, the men run these carpets through water in a separate container. The result of their labor is a fine layer of gold dust, which doesn't look like much. In a process called smelting, the dust is fused and melted to produce a metal patty. At the end of a long day's work, they may wind up with a patty worth $1,000. Back in town, the gold patties are combined and melted into a 15-ounce bar of gold that's sold for about $6,000. It's a tough way to earn a living. But for these miners, the price of gold is worth it. In 6 of the darkest winters on the globe, home of the South Pole, Antarctica is a continent of extremes. The highest, driest, and windiest place on Earth, Antarctica is technically a desert, trapping 70% of the world's fresh water in 90% of the world's ice. There isn't even enough water in the dry air to make snowflakes here. Instead, Antarctica produces diamond dust, best seen at night. A polar meteorologist catches a little dust and unveils its flat, hexagonal shape under a microscope. During the day, diamond dust creates an eerie halo in the sun. Over millions of years, the dust has collected to create an ice cap 3 miles thick. But at the opposite end of the globe, the North Pole boasts the largest expanse of sea ice. An ocean of ice covers 5.5 million square miles. Shipping lanes choked with ice make dangerous highways, and ships with bows made of 12-inch steel must crack and cut their way through. Miscalculations spell disaster. Ships running the lanes early or late in the 6-month season are often supported by helicopters, charting the safest routes from the skies. South of the North Pole, Greenland glaciers push to the sea and carve as many as 15,000 icebergs in a year. The rogue chunks of ice may tower as high as office buildings, but even greater expanses float unseen below the water's surface. To protect ships from running into icebergs, the U.S. Coast Guard flies an ice patrol. They relay warnings to ships on a collision course.
Go ahead. Roger, got an unidentified target 6 miles off 3 o'clock on the aircraft. Can't see it through the under.
While polar ice poses problems for man and machine, the loss of it may prove more devastating. For the last 30 years, the ice shelves around Antarctica have been shrinking. They're disappearing at a rate of more than 1% every 10 years. Global warming, caused by a buildup of man-made greenhouse gases, makes a little more ice melt each year. Melt all the ice sheets, and the sea level would rise a devastating 200 feet. Remote as they are, the ice cap's influence travels the globe. It may be hard to believe that the graphite in your pencil is made of the same stuff as these diamonds. But carbon is an element with many guises, including all living creatures. When an element, like carbon, exists in several natural forms, each form is called an allotrope. One of the best-known carbon allotropes is diamond, the hardest of all natural materials, and among the most beautiful. Diamonds begin at least 100 miles underground. There, pressure 5,000 times greater than surface pressure and temperatures nearly hot enough to melt iron transform carbon into diamonds. And there they stay until blown to the surface by the spew of a particular kind of volcanic eruption, a kimberlite eruption. The last diamond-spitting eruption happened over 100 million years ago, leaving its plumbing, known as kimberlite pipes, as evidence. But finding the pipes, hidden by time and erosion, is no small task. Geologists employ odd comrades in the search. In this case, termites. In the process of building these impressive mounds, termites excavate rocks and minerals that may or may not suggest a cache of diamonds below. In the 1960s, geologists discovered one of the richest kimberlite pipes in Africa, with a little help from termites. Once the mining begins, earth moving on a termite scale seems completely insignificant. 85 tons of rock are blasted, crushed, and processed to produce a single handful of gems. At the Finch Mine in South Africa, miners have been digging for 30 years. This hole is 2,500 feet wide and 1,200 feet deep. Inside a cut diamond, light is split and facets create rainbows. But the sought-after gem is nothing more than pressure-packed carbon atoms. The tight crystal structure makes diamonds hard as well as beautiful. In a single year, 3.5 million tons of rock are blasted, crushed, and extracted, all for tiny pieces of pressurized carbon. Only 20% of the diamonds unearthed make the grade as gems. And after all that, it turns out that diamonds are not forever. In several million years, these hard-won gems will disintegrate.